Thank you for joining us. I'm Alice Mori. I'm an SEO. I've been in the industry for quite a while. You can check our website, smarty.marketing, with some of my services, insights, blog posts, all of that. With me today and always, April, our director of social media outreach. Sometimes she's also our designer, so she has a lot of talents that we are happy to use in our agency. Thank you so much, April.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Today was going to be a roundup of tools. I'm a big fan of all kinds of marketing and SEO tools, and on a regular basis, I'm trying to share them through my newsletter in these live events. But Google isn't giving us any rest at all, so he gives us something newsworthy to discuss every week. The week before that was site reputation abuse update. Last week that was AI overviews, which is a search generative experience going live. And this week we have Google's documentation, search algorithm documentation leak to discuss, which we are going to do in a moment. Just a quick update from the search industry. From the last week, we were discussing AI overviews and how they can go wrong with Google providing some false and even dangerous advice on top of search results. There is a Twitter account that is called Goog Enough that is curating all the dangerous, false, funny answers from AI overviews. Please subscribe, share the word. This is something that we need to provide to Google in hopes they will hear the feedback and somehow fix the errors, because they can be dangerous, especially in health, financial, and your money, your life industries. So please go ahead and subscribe, share the most interesting cases that you come across with that account and with me as well. I would love to retweet and share this, spread the word as well. So again, that's Goog Enough X Twitter profile, so that you can please follow, and we all into this together. So with that quick update aside, let's talk about the documentation that got leaked with some insight into how Google search algorithm works and which factors they take into account. They scoring search results and providing actual rankings in organic search. From what I understood, that document was discovered by Rand Fishkin, which to me means that there is even more trust into the thing, that it was real and it's not something, because there is huge rumor right now going around the industry saying those were not real documents and they were faked, so that we had something to discuss. I don't think this is true. I do think that this documentation is very legit and very real from what I could see. So thank you, Rand Fishkin, for bringing this to our attention. Michael King, I pull rank on Twitter. He was the first to cover and explain that documentation in his article. Again, in my newsletter, I linked it from the description section of this video. I do reference Michael King and give him thanks for doing a great job of covering this document. And I do quote him as well. He's not just covering the actual leaked documentation, he also provides related patents, related quotes from Googlers that were contradicting what we know right now. So it's a very interesting read. Please go ahead, click the link in my newsletter to find it. I know that Rand Fishkin shared the leaked documentation with Michael King for him to cover it in much detail. So thank you, Michael, for spending your long weekend doing this. And it's a great read again. He's promising to have some follow-ups, which we'll be also hopefully covering in these live events and explaining what to pay attention to and what the actionable advice can be coming from any of those insights, which I think is the most important. So quick introduction to that documentation, because I'm trying to focus this live video on links, This is our specialty. We build links, so that's the most interesting part for us is link building. It's also the most actionable part for us because there are a lot of parts of that documents that we as SEO cannot really have direct influence on, like click through from search results or long links, all of that. So link building to me was one of the most interesting parts of that documentation is how they treat links, and so that we can focus our efforts on getting the links that can move the needle and will move the needle. So that will be the main part of this live event. But just a quick introduction to that documentation, a quick summary. Everything that we've been saying for about 2 decades right now is true, even though Google has been denying and even gaslighting many of SEOs who were doing experiments, including Rand Fishkin. And just a quick word about Rand is that I know there are a few people in the SEO industry for some reason chose to mock him for his experiments and efforts to bring some clarity to search industry. And he was doing experiments. He was trying to be as helpful as he could, and turns out he has been also right through all these times, even though he was being mocked and sometimes disliked for his efforts as well. So thank you, Rand. So first of all, we already know that click-through data is a huge part of Google's algorithm. We know it is not just from this documentation, but there was also trial documentation that was made public as well. There is a nav boost. There's a huge signal for Google that they notice results that get fewer clicks than is normal. So they know exactly how much click-through is supposed to be generated for each search position. If you notice any search result that is getting fewer clicks, that's a very huge negative factor for SEO. We know now that there is a long click. It's a stupider, I would say, more foolish version of what we thought Google was using. We thought it was pogo sticking. So anytime people go to search results and then go back to the result and then go back to search results, we thought that was a negative factor. It may still be, it's not mentioned in the documentation, but what is mentioned is the long click. So when people go to a search result, to any site that is ranking search and spend some time on that page, this is a huge positive signal for Google, which I think not as good as pogo sticking would be, but I mean, it's still a very similar signal as well. So keep an eye on your time on page, especially if it's in comparison with other pages. I know there are search results that require more attention, more reading. Sometimes there are quick answers, so people would not spend as much time on your page. So treat it as comparison. Don't go back again too crazy about it, but do pay attention on your time on page metric in site results. Another interesting thing that there is also authorship. This one that has been debated for years and years. Some SEOs were sure that Google would pay attention to authors. Some would say that that's impossible to do. In any case, this documentation gives some light to that. They do keep store authors of every page. So they do pay attention a lot, and they also associate those authors with the entity, with the website as well, which are a huge insight as well. So we want great authors to be associated with our sites. This is confirmed now. We can put that argument bed finally. Another thing that also is important for us is that for links, and we'll start talking about links at this point, not just for links, but overall, Google may give up on indexing the whole document. The web documents can be truncated. So make sure everything that is important for your SEO, for your users, for your site, to put that in the first half of your page always. So all of those little things that we put at the bottom of the page that could be FAQs, related articles, all of that, this could be truncated. We could never tell when it happens, but there is such a possibility. And consequently, with the links as well, it's better than links come on top of the page. It's not like we can always impact that, but at least with internal links, that's something you should keep in mind, that put everything that's important in the first half of your document. Documents, Google does truncate documents if they can give up on web documents as well. Another thing that is not as much related to links, but may, depending on how you do link building, is that it's also important for helpful content recovery. I feel that's my personal perspective of that, is that Google keeps 20 updates of every page. So anytime you update a page, do keep in mind Google knows the previous version. So if you want to have to forget Google your previous version, you need to do that 20 times. Not just update the page, but update it, wait for it to be indexed, and then update again. So if you want for Google to forget what it was, do it 20 times and make sure it's indexed every time. In which cases this could make sense? Definitely for expired domain redirection, because we know for sure that Google only passes link equity when the page is very relevant to the destination page. So if you buy an expired domain, it's very good, and you want to make sure that the link equity is passed, update it 20 times until it's exactly the same as your destination page. And that is a bigger chance that the link equity will be passed. Again, this is not 100% recipe for this, but for everyone who's doing expired domain redirection, we do not do this. But in any case, if anyone does that, this is a good tip to experiment with at least. Same with when you add links to existing pages or you get links from existing pages. You want that page to be updated quite a few times for Google to pay attention and know those are not new links. So there is something, and helpful content. Let's talk about that. So if you update your page 20 times, on the 21st time, there is a bigger chance for your recovery. So Google may forget, may remove that unhelpful content, classify from a page if you update it enough times. This is nothing we've ever experimented with. This is not confirmed. But just because we know that Google keeps only 20 versions of your previous page, there is a good chance there is a little door there for helpful content recovery. So for everyone who is trying to recover from helpful content update, try that. If any all other things you already tried, do not update your page once, update it 20 times. Add something new all the time until Google forgets your previous version that was classified as unhelpful. Again, not confirmed, but something to experiment with. Now let's go to link building. And I think this document gives a lot of insight into which backlinks Google is really choosing to count. One of the thing is that there is no scoring in that document. So we don't know which signal is scored, which is more important than the other signal. Google does mention like a crazy amount of signals, a crazy amount of systems, ranking systems that utilize those signals. There is a lot of layers, a lot of signals. There is no insight into how important each of those are in comparison to other. But there is a huge deal of attention given to links in that document, which is a huge proof for all of us that links are still key. It's like, let's just stop talking about top 3 ranking signals or whatever Google is trying to convince us to believe. Let's just put that to rest at this point and say links are still key. And if you have any doubts, read that document. There is a lot of attention to that factor and how they evaluate links and which links they choose to use. And how they actually work for the whole site. So there is a lot of attention to links there. No other signal has so much attention as that one. So that tells me links are still core and key and fundamental, and it's going to be that way as well, because this document is very fresh. It's very up to date. So it's not something that Google was using 2000 something. It's fresh. So it's still a lot of things talk about links there. So if it was not as important, guess what? They would not be discussed as much. So links. There are a few important things that documentation mentions about links that we've been talking about for years. First of all, relevancy. I'm sure there was still link building agencies, link building companies, or even businesses who do not pay attention at relevancy. That documentation mentions that relevancy is key for passing link equity. So you want your destination page to be very relevant to the linking page, and you want the anchor text to be very relevant to the destination page as well. So these are key. If you fail to do that, it's just wasted link. It will not be counted. Relevancy is key. Another thing is freshness. And this is something we've been discussing on these live videos in my newsletter as well, that freshness is key for SEO. It's not just for queries demand freshness. It's all over the place. It's about keeping your content not stale. It's about getting fresh links on a regular basis. And this documentation also tells us that links from fresh pages, from news sites, from blogs that are new, not existing blog posts, are key for passing link equity. Those work best. And it's also it's music to my ears because that's exactly what we're doing at Smarter Marketing. We create linkable assets that attract and generate all those links from news publications, media outlets, from Reddit, from all of that. So all of those are very fresh links that really count. So freshness for link building is key, and that's not new. Again, we talked about that a couple weeks ago, and but it's good to have a confirmation from Google itself for that. Next, it's not just about links coming to any page, and this is also very important for SEO. It's not just direct links pointing to your money pages that count. That documentation has a lot of insight into how Google uses site authority. Yes, it's a thing. Let's put that argument to bed now again as well. There is site authority, even though Google was mocking RAND for its DA metric. No, Google is not using DA. That is Moz metric, but it's semantics. Whether it's site authority or domain authority, it exists. We don't know. We cannot put any number on it because that's Google's secret number that we do not know. So it's not. I still think that 100% relying on Moz DA or SEMrush DR, whatever people are using, is not good. It's not Google's metric. It's something that you can use for comparison or whatnot, but it's not Google's metric. But it exists. It's domain authority, site authority, whatever you call it. Google is using it. So building backlinks to your site, whichever pages you point those links to, is helpful. Is key to rankings. Another thing is that the homepage page rank of the homepage is key for internal pages that are linked from that page, from homepage as well. That is also important. So building all kinds of links to build up your overall backlink profile, not just money pages. That is a good link building method because let's face it, it's very hard to get good backlinks to money pages, to commercial pages, to product pages, to category pages. But you can get backlinks to linkable content, which is something we specialize in. And those backlinks will be helping your overall site authority, your home page, all of that will be benefiting from those backlinks. The key here again is do that on a regular basis and get those fresh links on a regular basis as well. So we also know that Google is using Google Chrome now to detect all the clicks that go into the site. So links that are getting clicked are the best links. Again, we want people to click those links for them to count. So keep in mind on your Google Analytics, on your referral traffic, not just organic traffic. So you want to know your referral traffic because those are the best backlinks that you get, those that get clicks. And with that, I think I covered most of that, of the insights from Google in terms of backlinks. So just to sum up, you want relevant links, you want fresh links on a regular basis, on a consistent basis, and you want backlinks to your any page of your site. They are all helpful. So do not only build links to your important pages that you want to convert. Any links that come to a domain, help, site authority, site homepage power, and all of those is passed throughout the site. And I'm sure I was covering more in my newsletter, so check it out in the description and comment if you have any additional insight from that documentation, so I could include it as well in terms of link building. But I was talking for 20 minutes, and now we have a few minutes
You have
for
lots
any
of que- you
of
have lots of
questions.
questions.
Okay, bring them up, April.
All right, I'll start from the beginning. Uh, Todd asked, "Do you think Rand has the trust on this?" I think you addressed that. He definitely.
Yes, overall, I feel like Rand Fishkin is the best person in this industry, even though he's no longer part of this industry. He was always very genuinely helpful to the community, and I'm glad that this whole thing brought his name up back to our attention, because we all want to thank Rand. He's definitely the most favorite person. Him and Jim Boykin, two of my favorite people in the industry, and it's great to thank him again.
Um, Here's another one. This is a good one.
Do you think Google will change things up on their end now that this has leaked? I think it's not easy for them, for sure. I've been saying this for a few years now. The Google algorithm is so complicated these days. I don't think there is much impact from engineers at this point, or any individual thing. They may try, but I don't think they will succeed. If they could change the algorithm, and that's the point. That's what we've been seeing from site reputation abuse update just a couple of weeks ago. They struggle to algorithmically change things. They add manual penalties. They add additional layers to the algorithm, like helpful content system and things like that. In Mike King's article, there are a few systems listed that they're using to kind of try and balance all the signals. So it's very hard to change. I would say they're definitely struggling with algorithmic changing, whatever it takes. So they may think about that, but I don't think they will manage.
All right. Then we have this one.
I've heard that this document is from 2019 Google algorithm. I've heard it's very recent. I think Mike King, at the very first few paragraphs from his coverage, he's talking about it's being very recent. And also, one we think it is recent is it does have some references to helpful content update, even though it's not calling it helpful content update, but it's referencing, definitely it has some references on how it, like little panda, how it's working. So there are a few
Mhm.
things that we can see from that documentation that tells us it's pretty recent. So it's
Yeah,
this year.
definitely. When I was reading through it, it definitely seemed like there was a lot of recent relevant things in it. So I think it's fresh for sure. Right, and then this one, we're rapid fire now.
Does that mean we should have less guest posting on
Oh,
our sites?
this one came up when we were talking about the authors.
Um, let's see. No, if you are very selective with your articles that you put on your site, if you edit them, if you review them, if you agree with what they're saying, if they're useful, helpful, by all means. One thing that and I am to blame for that. Guest blogging does have a bad reputation because people think that they just take a guest post and publish it, and that's free content, and that's it. No, I know I've been guest posting for Lisa's website. I know she's very, very selective and careful with what she's publishing. She takes time to edit things. She adds screenshots. She adds tools. She's very, so that's the process. So if you can manage it, however much you can manage of this work, because that's hard work, by all means go ahead and publish whatever you like. I don't think that guest posting exists for Google necessarily. It's for your audience. You want some fresh insights, perspective from other people. Google will know when it's your authorship or someone else's authorship. I would not publish for sure guest post under your name just because you want Google to know which articles are yours and which are not. Other than that, do not change anything. You have a great process. In case if you're on top of everything that is being published on your site and you're very careful and very selective, go ahead and do that.
Okay. And then this was another one regarding, well, this one was regarding the 20 updating pages to
Updating,
my
do
content.
you mean changing the date on the post page as well? If there is substantial update, yes, for sure. What I mean by substantial update, that's I'm actually quoting Google, so we don't really know. But to me, when I update anything, I make sure that I use all the up-to-date data. So if any tool is not working, any data goes back for you fast, any statistic goes back to like several years back, if there are outdated screenshots. So I'll update everything that's outdated and it also add some new sections to the site. Usually those are takeaways or in this article or comparison or more tools that have been around recently, something like that. So that's a substantial update. When it's updated, for sure, change the date. Google does pay attention to dates a lot. Even in that documentation, dates are mentioned several times. So when you update the date of your article or page, make sure that your structured data schema, if you're using article schema, is updated as well, and everything like in the comment section, update as many dates as you can, because Google is paying attention to all of them.
And then here we go, this one.
So just to recap, links from existing content aren't counted unless the referring page is refreshed multiple. Not as straightforward. I expected this question. I actually answering. I'm asking myself the same question as well. So let's see. Google does mention fresh links. Google does love them, but they also love links from reputable sources, and there is another layer to that as well. So if that page is somewhere on top of, it's not too hidden inside the site, if it's in archives, blog archives, if it's in navigation, even better, if it positioned well inside the site, if it's being indexed, freshly indexed a few times. So check when Google last indexed that page that you are requesting a link from, for example. By all means, go ahead and do that. I'm sure those links will count. The only thing is that, yes, fresh links are better. I would take any link, just so you know. If it was my site, if someone says, "Hey, I added your link to an old article," I would thank them for sure. I'm sure those links also count as well. It's just they're not as impactful as links from fresh content, which is something we know now.
And then here, this one.
What's your opinion of Mars DA score? Is it something we can rely on? No. Because it's not Google's metric. They do have spam scores, they do have the motion signals as well. It's a good tool. Sometimes I would use it as a comparison for sure. If you want to compare your domain power to your competitors' domain powers and see how far behind you are, for example, that's the way to use it. So you want you it's a comparison tool. It cannot be just taken as it is, because it's not Google's metric, so it's not representative of what Google is using. But I use DA in some of the tasks for comparison, for competitive research exclusively, and yeah, it's a good metric. It's not Google's though. Keep that in mind.
Right. Well, that was all of our questions.
We're quite on time. If you have more
Yeah.
questions, if you have, we can go on discussing this document next week, because there are other
Mhm.
things to
Yeah.
discuss there, including authorship, including nav boost or long clicks or whatnot. We can do that. So if you want us to continue this conversation, please keep those questions coming. I was focusing on link building this time because there was a lot of coverage, general coverage of that documentation, and I wanted to find something niche. And I'm also a big fan of link building, obviously. But we can keep on discussing it next week's. If you have more questions, do ask them so that we have some inspiration for the next week's episode. Again, subscribe to my newsletter. It's on LinkedIn and Smarty. Scroll down to Smarty Digest, and come back next Wednesday, 1 p.m., to discuss something else about this documentation and what the practical, actionable tips we can get out from that leak and benefit from it in some way. I mean, it's already great to be able to say we've been right all this time.
Yeah.
I'm already happy about that, but it's nice to also have some practical advice, some practical takeaways
Mhm.
from that documentation. And that's something we'll be focusing on for a few weeks now, this week and at least next week as well. I do want to do some roundup of tools as well, but Google does not give me any opportunity because there is something something huge happening every week that we have to discuss here. So please keep your questions coming, and we will discuss them next week then, if because we have run out of time. Thank you so much, April. Thank you so
Yep.
much,
Thank you.
everyone who was listening to us today, asking questions. Love you all, and see you next week.